This is the 10th year anniversary of an unfortunate act by the 1999 Congress and Bill Clinton administration, where they repealed the Glass-Steagall Act. Now, the Glass-Steagall Act used to say, look, the banks that are commercial banks that you and I put our money into, the public puts their money into, have to be separate from the investment banks that do high-end, financially risky trading, betting, whatever you want to call it, right? You can't commingle the two because then otherwise you're going to jeopardize the money that people put into the banks. Perfectly logical, came after the Great Depression because we learned our lesson back then. That was one of the things that caused the Great Depression. So we thought in the 1990s that, oh, no, we got this thing figured out. And if we just let the banks do whatever the hell they want, they're going to make more money and contribute more to the politicians. And that was largely true. Now, of course, the people who were going to get screwed were the consumers. And so Phil Gramm, a Republican senator from Texas, pushed that through Congress very aggressively. And then Bill Clinton, along with Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, accepted that bill and signed it. And so you could argue enthusiastically. But you know what? Not everybody was enthusiastic back then. Right before they did that, one man did come up and give a speech about this, and what a bad idea it would be. I think on this 10th anniversary of the repeal of Glass-Steagall, it would behoove us to show you who that man was. Senator Byron Dorgan from North Dakota. And as you're about to see here in clip number 16, he nailed it 10 years ago. Here.
A philosopher and author once said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." I worry very much that the fusing together of the idea of banking, which requires not just safety and soundness to be successful, but the perception of safety and soundness, but to merge it with inherently risky, speculative activity is, in my judgment, unwise. There are some notions that represent transcendental truths that are true over time. And one of those, in my judgment, I fervently believe, is that we are, with this piece of legislation, moving towards greater risk. We are almost certainly moving towards substantial new concentration and mergers in the financial services industry. That is almost certainly not in the interest of consumers, and we are deliberately and certainly with this legislation moving towards inheriting much greater risk in our financial services industries. And so I come to the floor to say that I regret that I cannot support the legislation. I think we will, in 10 years' time, look back and say we should not have done that because we forgot the lessons of the past.
Bingo! Ding, ding, ding! We have a winner. Unfortunately, he did not win at the time. He was one of the very few senators who voted against that bill. And don't you love their euphemisms, their Orwellian 1984-like phrases? That bill that 10 years later wound up destroying the U.S. economy was called the Financial Modernization Act. Oh, we've made financial industry so modern by letting them do whatever the hell they want and grab all that money while they can, and then it comes crashing on our heads. So Dorgan was 100% right about it. I believe he was one of only 6 senators that voted against it. And then when asked today, hey, what should we do? He's like, look, there are 3 obvious things. One is bring Glass-Steagall back. Remove the high-risk investment banks from FDIC-insured banks. It's so obvious. Our money shouldn't be at risk. If the bankers want to put their money at risk, well, that's their problem. And that's the signing ceremony right there where they're all laughing it up. Oh, yeah, this is going to be great. We're all going to make money from this. And later, the American taxpayer will suffer greatly. So one is to redo that. The second is to prohibit those FDIC-insured banks, the ones that have our money, from in doing risky derivatives trading that endangers the money. Perfectly logical. Doesn't mean you can't do it. You just do it on the investment bank side with your own money. But that leads to point number 3, because if they keep doing it and they keep crashing and it endangers the whole global economy, well, we can't have that either. So his third idea is, it's so simple, listen. abolish too big to fail. If you're too big to fail, you're too big. Too big to fail is what I call no-fault capitalism. That's what Byron Dorgan says, and he's 100% right. Bernie Sanders is on the warpath on the same thing, senator from Vermont, saying, look, what does that mean, too big to fail? If you're too big to fail, you're too big to exist. So we're not going to let you take risks with the American taxpayer money. You want to do it on your own? Have at it, Hoss. But that's not the direction we should be going in. And Dan Frumkin, now formerly of the Washington Post, now of Huffington Post, talked to Senator Dorgan and said, how do you feel about the administration and their financial regulation proposals? And he's like, well, you'll have to ask them how they're doing. But in the end, he had to concede, yes, I'm disappointed. It's not nearly enough. I don't know why they do this, man. I don't know why they can't see the most obvious things in the world. And the reality is, of course, they probably do see it. They're too enamored with what the banks say and the high-end bankers that are talking to Tim Geithner 6 times a day. That's literal. We've seen the records of his phone conversations. And he can't get his head out of Wall Street's ass, Geithner, the current Treasury Secretary, and Larry Summers, the #1 economic advisor. So headed down the wrong path.